Today, we're going to get you out of analysis paralysis and into building influence in your area of business that doesn't feel icky and feels aligned with your brand. And I'm going to be sharing a process that will be easy to implement in your business because once you know how to build influence in a way that's aligned with your brand and your brand's messaging, you will start to find that you will be able to grow your business in a way that doesn't make you feel like you are trying all the things and not getting anywhere. So, influence is something hugely foundational in any brand. It's something that you need to understand in order to grow your business. You need to know, how do I influence people so they come to learn about my business, want to learn about my business, and ultimately want to work with you or buy what you're offering. So you need to know how to create this influence. But for you, you want to be able to create it in a way that is easy and that is aligned with what you want to say. First, we need to answer the question, what is influence? So for me, influence is not about being loud and it's not about being everywhere. It's actually about being heard by the right people and in the right place. And it's the ability to shape how people think, feel, and act. So once you get out of the mindset of, I need to be everywhere in order to influence the maximum amount of people, being everywhere is hugely time consuming and it leads straight to burnout. So save yourself the time and the money by picking the places and being strategic about where you want to exert your influence. If I had to sum up influence in one sentence, it would be this: influence is not about being everywhere, it's about being meaningful somewhere. So keep that in mind when you start to think about influence and how you want to build influence for your brand. And that leads me on to the next section, which is how to start thinking about influence. So, how do you start thinking about this? Well, these are the three questions that I think you should ask yourself. And once you get clear on your answers, you'll start to see how you're going to go from here. So, question number one is, what do I know that others find useful in my area? What do I care deeply about? And this is hugely important because you want to do work that you care deeply about. And question number three is, where do I already have trust? Even if it's just one person, one client, what do they trust me to do? And influence doesn't grow in massive chunks. It actually grows in those micro, small moments where you build trust with one client and you build trust with another. It's in a helpful comment that you put on a post on social media. It's a shared insight. It's a story that helps your brand get seen. So what you need to do is figure out, where do I want to exert influence the most, and narrow down your focus and focus solely on that. Okay, so I'm going to share with you a very simple example that illustrates this and takes a lot of the kind of overwhelming feeling around what influence is and how do I start to build it. So I work in the area of PR and building influence through working with publications, digitally, and radio, broadcast, podcast, across the whole realm of the media. So recently, there was a story about how to save money on your heating bill at home, especially coming into the winter. This is a story that is hugely relevant to us people that are living in a cold climate. So, MSN and the Manchester Evening News reported that UK households were saving £112 a year just by adjusting the flow temperature on their boilers. Now, this was the story, but this tip came from Nesta, which are a social impact foundation. They didn't have a product launch, they didn't have any influencer campaign. They had this one nugget of information that's hugely helpful to people coming into the winter. It's a simple fact, it's a helpful idea, it's something that people can implement in their homes straight away. You lower your boiler's flow temperature by a number of degrees and you start to save money. And Nesta have used this messaging in order to grow their influence and their reliability in this particular area. So when you look at this and then you go away and you look at your own business, what is one helpful tip, one little nugget of information that you know will help people, but that they don't already know? Or it's something that they may have some information around, but actually don't know how to implement it. And this tip, you might think is just a very, very basic tip, but this went massively viral. And you're going to be asking, well, why did it go viral? For three reasons. It solved a real life problem, and it solved the problem at the right time of year coming into winter. It was actually easy to implement. It was easy to act on. You could read the story, literally go to your boiler and do it right there and then. And it came from a trusted source. And that is what influence is built on. Nesta didn't shout about it. What they did was they targeted different publications with their tip and with their messaging, and the media helped amplify it, and the media helped them grow their influence and grow their impact. So let's look now at where could you start to exert your influence. So I have a couple of other questions for you to start getting your mind thinking about how to do this. So, in your niche, this is an obvious example. You look at your niche, you look at your competitors, who is doing what, and where can I slot in? What insights can I share? What really interesting case study can I share that shows what I do is helpful, thereby influential in this area? Can you look at areas within your community? Can you offer help within your community? Can you offer something that is of value and that is meaningful? Especially coming up to Christmas, where Christmas stories about helping out in the community are hugely valuable to the media. Can you just provide it simply within your content? Can you start to look at how you frame your content? And can you see, is there ways that I can make this content a lot more valuable to my audience? And the key with influence is, like I said earlier, it's built in little minor micro moments. And these micro moments are only built by being consistent. Now, I'm not going to go on and on about consistency, but it is really important when you want to grow your influence. You show up often and you show up with value and you tell stories that matter. And even if they're small stories, and even if they only provide a tiny bit of useful information, that tiny little bit of information can, like the example I showed you earlier, mean an awful lot to a lot of people. So if you're ready to start building your influence from scratch, then hit subscribe because I will be sharing weekly tips and tricks on how to build your influence and have the media amplify your message so you can start to build your audience and start to grow your business in a meaningful way.